Hello friends, welcome back to my design and lettering channel. My name is Miri and today we are setting up my BuJo for the autumnal month October. As you can see, we are using a beautiful warm color palette this month and even do some cute blending on the lettering. If you want to know how to do that, stay tuned. If you're here to plan along with me, don't forget to grab your favorite stationeries, and if you're here to just watch something relaxing, you are at the right place as well. I started sketching my painting some days ago because I didn't have a plan at first on how to place the pumpkins, what I wanted with the pumpkins, how many, and so on. I kind of like my art to unfold as I go. Of course, there's always the risk on making mistakes, but that's part of the wonderful creative process. And to fix mistakes can be kind of fun and stimulate your creativeness. But enough of the babbling. I used a 01 pigment liner to go over my sketch. I used fine and incomplete lines. I painted 2 pumpkins, 3 sunflowers around them, and a big pumpkin leaf on the ground. I use pigment microns because I will go over the lines with watercolor pens later, and pigment pens won't smudge. If you don't have pigment liner, you will have to go in with the coloring first and do the lining after it dried. That works as well. For the colors, I used mostly my Pit Artist pens from the Skin Tone set. I really love these pens. The color tones are light and muted. I made an unboxing and review video some months ago and will link it in the info box if you are curious on these colors. For the first pumpkin, I laid down some pigment of the apricot pen and the cinnamon one. Sprayed it with water and then grabbed a bit of the color with the ivory pen to blend it on the paper. To darken the shadow parts of the pumpkin, I went in straight with the apricot pen. To soften the edges, I took up some cinnamon pigment with the ivory pen again and went over the shadow parts. For the stems, I released some cold brown pigment on the plate and used a synthetic brush for the coloring. For the second pumpkin, I used the apricot pen for the blending and the first layer. I darkened the bottom and head of the pumpkin as well as the ribs to create some depth. To color the big leaf, I used a muted green mild liner. If you like my video so far, I would be happy over a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like these, don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well. By that, you would help me grow my little channel here on YouTube. The sunflowers I colored only lightly with the ivory pen. I used the nougat pen to outline the ribbon on the top of the page. And wrote October with a brown pigment micron. To fill the ribbon, I used a beige Crayola. Of course, I will have a quote on the other page. I used the Pit Artist pens to write the first word and the fifth line. I used the pens India Red, Cinnamon and Beige Red in rotation. For the second and fourth line, I used the green mild liner and cinnamon for the brush lettering. I pressed a tiny bit harder on the down strokes to get the calligraphy style. The quote says, "Autumn shows us how beautiful it is to let things go." And again, I really liked the quote and thought it fitted the theme, of course, perfectly. On the right page, I placed a mini colander in the bottom and lined it with green and apricot. With the Tombow N89, I draw the incomplete lines. I cut the sides of this and the next page to create Dutch doors. Then I dig out some of these webbed cord package band and cut 2 slices off. I glued it in by using a glue roller. And I really like the look. What do you think? And that's it for the front page. Now we can move to our colander spread. I used the ruler to mark the position of the colander. For this pumpkin, I used all the reddish tones of the set: India Red, Cinnamon, Beige Red and Apricot. And started with the lightest color and darkened it with every layer. But this time I used the synthetic brush instead of the pens. The ivory pen I used for the highlights. For the stem I used the nougat pen. At last, I placed some leaves here and there. The colander I lined with a green mild liner. The header I lined with cinnamon and wrote the weekdays with a 01 pigment liner. For the week numbers, I used Indian red as background and wrote the numbers with the jelly roll in 10. I wrote October with pencil first. And went over that with the apricot pen. To get that nice ombre look, I placed the slightly darker color, beige red, at the bottom of the letters and blended it by going over the upper edge with the first color, apricot. To lighten the upper edge of the first color, because it darkened itself by going over that again, I used the ivory pen. Isn't that a beautiful autumnal header? I really love the colors. For the next page, I wrote the headers again with pencil first and went over that with the same colors and techniques as with the October header. With the green white liner, I lined the header of the tracker as well as the outer lines. For the inner lines, I used the N89 as well as for the health tracker on the side. I lined every second line here with the brush tip for some variation. I did the same on the content page, but lined the notes section with a heart tip. I wrote the headers with the 01 pigment liner and started coloring the little painting. Again, I went over with the pigment liner and colored the pumpkins in. And that's it for this page. Let's move on to create the weekly spreads. I started by marking the spaces and to cut the Dutch doors. Unfortunately, I cut again a bit too much from the page, this time from the top. Normally I would have left one space free, but it's okay. I kind of fixed it by not leaving a space from the side as well. So yeah, that's that. For constancy, I lined the boxes with the green liner and marked the headers with it too. The place for the numbers I marked with cinnamon. I wrote October with pencil and went over it with a orangey pigment liner. With the 005 liner, I wrote a mini calendar under it. I sketched a bigger pumpkin at the bottom corner and drawn some sunflowers around it. Here you can see how I sketched them. I drew a little circle in the middle, a bigger one around it, and the big one around that, but not totally centered to get a slightly side view look. I parted the circles in 8 by drawing slightly curved lines. On these guidelines I draw the petals. Please not as I did here, but start at the bigger circle in the middle. I made a mistake here but fixed it in a bit. Draw some half petals next to others to show some layering. You can curve some of them or let them flap over as well. I love drawing flowers, and although they kind of come easy for me, sunflowers are something I still need a lot of practice. I thought I drew the middle part big enough, but I think I need to draw it even bigger. Because I find these sunflowers to look a bit like a marigold or daisy kind of flower, but they are still cute. I use the same coloring technique as before, so I let you watch without me blabbing. I have drawn the lines for the note section and wrote notes with the 01 liner. As well as for the weekdays and numbers. On the right corner, I sketched a sunflower and lined her with the 01 pigment liner. As you see, I line the petals a bit shaky and wobbly at the point to let them look more naturally. Again, if you like these kind of videos, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more content like this. By the way, would you like an in-depth tutorial on how to draw flowers? Is that something that you would be interested in? Then let me know in the comments. Lastly, I colored the side tab with the remaining color of my plate. And now we are ready for some satisfying flip through. I hope you liked this video and got some inspiration out of it, and wish you a wonderful day. I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye bye!